Hello and welcome to the Harbridge and Cross training program on respirator protection, care, use, and type. Chapter 6, version 1.0. At Harbridge and Cross, we are committed to your health and safety and believes in order to be effective, health and safety must be cultural and expressed at all levels of the organization. This is our agenda for today. First, we'll talk about the roles and responsibilities of all workplace parties. From there, we'll move into the legislative requirements. Next, we'll talk about the activities requiring respiratory protection, the injuries and hazards that can result if we're not protecting ourselves, and the prevention, the types of respiratory protections that are available at Harbridge and Cross. Next, we'll move into the care and maintenance, a summary, and then we'll have a short respiratory protection multiple choice test. There will be a few videos here in this presentation that will explain a little bit more about the care and fitness of your respiratory options, so please pay attention. Roles and responsibilities. At Harbridge and Cross, there are no free lunches. Everyone has a job to do. Beginning with senior management, their job is to review the guidelines and training requirements for PPE annually and to apply changes to the manual as required. Ensure all job sites have adequate PPE based on the type of work activities expected, and to provide all workers training on how to use PPE effectively. Superintendents and supervisors have an important job to do. They are to review with workers their daily activities, hazards, and ways to mitigate risk through the use of specialized PPE. Review with workers the required training programs on the care, use, and type of specialized PPE, and have available specialized PPE for the required activities, and then verify through their site inspections that workers are using their specialized PPE as required. Your safety coordinators are there to support you. They are to verify through site inspections that workers are using as required specialized PPE, report any violations of the PPE policy to the site superintendent and to provide disciplinary action as required, and to train workers on the care, use, and type of specialized PPE for the required activities. And of course, workers, you must participate as required in the Harbridge and Cross training program on the care, use, and type of specialized PPE. Identify on your DTA specialized PPE requirements to minimize risk when performing an activity, and use as required specialized PPE to mitigate hazards. Legislative requirements. Under the Occupational Health and Safety Act, Regulations Section 21, it states that a worker shall wear such protective clothing and use such personal protective equipment or devices as are necessary to protect the worker against the hazard to which the worker may be exposed to. When it comes to respiratory protection, we're referring to the CSAZ standards 94.4 all the way to 11. And again, this refers to respiratory selection, use, and care. Also, under Section 18.2, a worker who is exposed to any level of an airborne designated substance may request respiratory equipment from his or her employer, and the employer shall provide respiratory equipment in response to the request. Section 18.4, an employer who provides a worker with respiratory equipment shall provide training and instruction to the worker in the care and use of the equipment. And lastly, Section 46.2. If it is not practical to provide natural or mechanical ventilation in the circumstances described in Clause 46.1a, respiratory protective equipment suitable for the hazard shall be provided and used by the worker. Activities requiring respiratory protection. In construction, exposed lungs are susceptible to physical and chemical hazards. Respiratory protection is often the only practical means of preventing injuries. So when we talk about physical hazards, we're referring to using power tools to chip concrete or working nearby heavy equipment that uproots dust or has a lot of emissions such as hydrocarbons. And when it comes to chemical hazards, we're referring to working near gases, vapors, fumes, mists such as propane, oils, designated substances, or dust from woods or other construction materials. And again, here you can see in the pictures, all of these activities produce some form of dust, and we must use respiratory protection to protect ourselves. Injuries and hazards. In construction, injuries from lack of respiratory protection may result in a broad array of damages, including irritations to the lungs, asphyxiation, central nervous system damage, cystic fibrosis, and carcinogens. This results from hazards in the form of dangerous gases, dusts, fumes, mists, and vapors. These effects may also be compounded depending on the number and the variety of hazards in the area. And it's also important to know that smoking also increases the risk of airborne hazards as lungs may already be compromised. And we have a couple of pictures here just to show the impact of our lungs, healthy lungs versus unhealthy lungs from tobacco smoke, cystic fibrosis, how it affects the lining of our lungs. So this is why we want to protect our lungs. They're very important to us and we need them to breathe. Prevention. Types of respiratory protection. A respirator is a device designed to protect workers from inhaling particle matters, including airborne microorganisms, fumes, vapors, and gases. Now, there are two main categories of respirators. There is air purifying respirators, which forces contaminated air through a filter element. And the second is air supplied respirators, where an alternative supply of fresh air is delivered. Now, at Harbridge and Cross, we use air purifying respirators, including the N95 dust mask and the half mask respirators for all of our work activities, because typically these are the main activities that we'll be involved in. Type of respiratory protection. So the first is the N95 dust mask. Now, the style and comfort. Let's look at some of the fitting instructions. You first want to cup the respirator in your hands with the nose piece at your fingertips. Next, you want to position the respirator under your chin with the nose piece up. Pull both straps over the head and push the bottom strap towards your neck. Place fingertips from both hands at the top metal nose piece, and you want to sort of mold it into place to create a nice secure fit. The use. When you're using your N95 dust mask, these are mostly designed for activities involving grinding, sanding, sweeping, sawing, and liquids that are not oil-based. Hygiene. If your respirator becomes damaged, soiled, or breathing becomes difficult, you first want to remove yourself from that contaminated area and replace the respirator immediately. Now, the advantages of the N95 dust mask is that it's effective against 95% of solids and liquid aerosols that do not contain oil. Once oil is involved, it's a different element and you need to have a more efficient respirator protection. The disadvantage of the N95 dust mask: it does not protect you from gases, vapors, or oil aerosols, and it cannot be used for asbestos type 2 or type 3 or even sandblasting activities. This respirator does not supply oxygen and it cannot be reused, so it's designed for one-time use. The half mask respirator. So the fitting instructions include the following. First, you want to place the respirator over your nose and mouth with the bottom straps unfastened. Pull the top strap over your head, placing the head cradled onto the crown of your forehead. Hook the bottom strap together behind your neck. Adjust the strap tensions to achieve a nice secure fit and pull the ends of the straps to adjust an effective tightness. Now, when it comes to half masks, oftentimes there's cartridges that we add in order to give us that extra kind of protection and to filter out some specific particulates. Now, the type of cartridges that are available for the half mask include the N series, which are not resistant to oil, the R series, which are resistant to oil, but that's only up to one shift, and the shift consists of 8 hours, or P series cartridges, which are oil proof and that can be used for more than one work shift. The hygiene. You want to remove all components and wash under warm water with mild detergent. You want to rinse thoroughly in clean running water and use a lint-free cloth to dry it. So half mask respirators can be used multiple times, whereas the N95 dust mask is only designed for a one-time application. The advantage of the half mask is that the respirator is lightweight and fairly comfortable to wear. Cartridges can be replaced easily. The disadvantage is the respirator must be routinely inspected, cleaned, and disinfected and repaired, and sometimes communication may also be difficult. In the Harbridge and Cross Safety Manual, we do have an inspection form for your half mask, and it's important that you inspect it before each use. So this is our first video on the prevention type of respiratory protections, and let's watch it together.
When you must wear a respirator to protect yourself against airborne contaminants in your workplace, it is very important to follow proper procedures for putting it on and taking it off. The process of putting on and taking off your respirator is also referred to as donning and doffing. Respirator manufacturers supply instructions on how to properly don and doff, put on and take off each respirator they produce. The manufacturer also supplies instructions on how to properly conduct a user seal check. A user seal check is a way to verify that the respirator has been properly positioned on your face to assure a proper seal. Sometimes workers confuse the term user seal check with the term fit test, which is different. A user seal check is not a substitute for a fit test, which is a more involved process that uses a test agent or instrument to verify the respirator's fit. A fit test must be performed before you wear a respirator for the first time and at least annually thereafter. A user seal check must be performed each time you put on a respirator to check that it has been donned correctly. Remember, always follow the respirator manufacturer's instructions for the specific respirator model that you are using. Here are some general instructions for properly donning and doffing and properly conducting a user seal check for the two most common types of respirators. Let's begin with general instructions for a disposable filtering facepiece respirator, which is often referred to as an N95 or a dust mask. Inspect the respirator, including the straps, for tears or damage. If you find any damage to the respirator, replace it. If your respirator comes out of its original container folded flat, open the folds fully, following the manufacturer's instructions. Using one hand, place the respirator on your face with the nose piece at your fingertips, allowing the headbands to hang freely. The nose piece should span and cover the bridge of your nose, and the respirator should cup your chin. Pull the top strap over your head, resting it high at the back of your head. Pull the bottom strap over your head and position it around your neck and below your ears. Be sure not to crisscross the straps. Make sure that your mouth and nose are covered by the respirator. If the nose piece has a metal nose piece or strip, use both hands to mold the nose strip to conform to the shape of your nose by pushing inward while moving your fingertips down along both sides of the nose piece. Next, conduct a user seal check. It's essential to follow the manufacturer's user seal check instructions because the manufacturer knows the best method for checking their respirator. Generally speaking, the manufacturer's instructions are based on covering the surface of the respirator, usually with your hands, so that air is prevented from passing through the filtering facepiece. A positive pressure seal check is performed by gently exhaling to see if the facepiece bulges slightly. For a negative pressure seal check, take a quick deep breath to see if the facepiece collapses slightly. During either test, if air leaks out between your face and the respirator's face seal, the respirator may not fit your face properly. One way that you can identify leakage is if you feel air blowing through the seal onto your face or eyes. If you feel leakage, readjust the fit of your respirator and check the seal again. If you cannot achieve a proper seal, you are not protected and should not enter a hazardous area. See your supervisor to determine what the problem may be. When you're finished wearing the respirator, carefully remove it without touching the exterior, because the exterior may be contaminated. Discard your respirator according to your company's procedures. Now let's explore the general instructions for properly donning and doffing and properly conducting a user seal check for a half facepiece elastomeric respirator, sometimes referred to as a half mask. Remember, these are just general instructions. You should always follow the manufacturer's instructions for the specific respirator model that you are using. To begin, inspect the respirator, including the straps, valves, and gaskets, for loose, missing, or damaged parts. If you find any damage to the respirator, repair or replace it. Then pull the bottom strap over your head. Place the respirator facepiece under your chin and over your nose, with the narrow part of the facepiece over your nose. Pull the head harness over the crown of your head and adjust its placement until it is stable but comfortable. Be sure that the neck strap is flat and smooth against the back of your neck. Adjust the neck strap, but be careful not to over-tighten the respirator to your face. Next, perform a positive pressure user seal check. Place the palm of your hand over the exhalation valve outlet. Do not push so hard that you distort the natural shape of the facepiece. Exhale gently and hold your breath to create and maintain a slight positive pressure inside the facepiece. If the facepiece bulges slightly and no air leaks are detected between your face and the facepiece, a proper fit has been achieved. If, on the other hand, you detect a face seal leakage, reposition the facepiece and readjust the straps, and then retest. If you cannot achieve a proper seal, you are not protected and should not enter a hazardous area. See your supervisor to determine what the problem may be. Next, perform the negative pressure seal check. Cover the respirator cartridges or filters with the palms of your hands. Inhale gently. If you feel the facepiece collapse slightly and pull closer to your face with no leaks between the face and facepiece, a proper seal has been made. If you detect face seal air leakage, reposition the respirator on your face and readjust the straps, then recheck. If you cannot achieve a proper seal, you are not protected and should not enter a hazardous area. See your supervisor to determine what the problem may be. When you have finished wearing the respirator, carefully remove it by loosening the straps and taking it off without touching the cartridges or filters, because they may be contaminated. Follow your company's procedures for maintenance of the respirator, including proper cleaning and disinfecting and storage.
Care and maintenance. So you want to check prior to each use for any kind of damage, cuts, cracks, or any other damages to the respirator. You want to replace them as often as necessary. Now, your dust masks should be replaced after each use, and your cartridges should be replaced as needed. And remember, they're only designed for one shift, and the P-Series can be used for multiple shifts. Just make sure you indicate that on your inspection form. Reusable half masks must be inspected before each use using our company-approved check form, and replace disposable respirators frequently. And also, you want to store your equipment in a nice, clean, dry area. You want to take care of your equipment so your equipment can take care of you. A summary. So again, at Harbridge and Cross, we mostly focus on air purifying respirators, including the N95 dust masks and the half mask. So we're just going to go through some of the applications that involve the dust masks and the half masks. And you can see here, for the dust masks, it's mostly pertaining to painting activities, roofing activities. If you're dealing with any kind of silica breakups, so for example, if you're breaking a concrete wall or drywalling and sanding, a dust mask works great. When it comes to welding, again, when it comes to dust, dust from wood, pressure treated wood, vinyls or laminate flooring, or sanding, again, the dust mask works really well. And you can also use it for a specialist removal type 1 operation. The half mask application applies to everything that a dust mask can do. But in addition to that, it can also be used for an asbestos removal type 1 and type 2 operation. And it can also be used for gases and vapors, including solvent, organic vapors, thinners, ammonia, and acid gases. Care. Your respiratory protection and construction are subject to many damage-causing hazards. If a respirator becomes damaged, soiled, or breathing becomes difficult, you want to leave the contaminated area immediately and replace or fix the respirator. You can change out the cartridges or just change it altogether. Remember, N95 dust masks are designed for one-time use. They cannot be reused. Okay, let's go through our respiratory multiple choice test just to see if we've been paying attention. So the first question is, which of the following is the worker's responsibility? Is it A, to provide specialized PPE to the workforce for the required activities? Is it B, to report violations of the specialized PPE policy to the site superintendent and to provide disciplinary action as required? Or is it C, to use as required specialized PPE to mitigate hazards? Question 2. Harbridge and Cross supplies which of the following respiratory protection to its workforce? Is it A, half masks, B, full face pieces, or C, N95 dust masks? And question 3. Which of the following are hazards associated with breathing or respiratory hazards? Is it hydrocarbon emissions, asphyxiation, or dust? Or is it D, all the above? So let's look at the answers together. And there you go. If you have any questions about this or any other training program, please contact the Harbridge and Cross Health and Safety Department. Thank you and have a great day.